Welcome, strongest Avenger.
What?
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. I've been a little caught up recently playing the new Marvel's Avengers game, which is awesome by the way. If you haven't had a chance to play it, I would strongly recommend you check it out. You get to play as 5 of your favorite Avengers characters from the original 6 Avengers. Fortunately, Hawkeye is not a playable character yet, but he should be released in the next few months, as well as the iconic Ms. Marvel, whose stretchy abilities are pretty fun. But this game got me thinking, who is really the strongest Avenger? I'm not going to focus on the game, as I keep this channel mostly about film review, so we're going to look at, in the MCU, who is the most powerful of the Avengers.
Strongest Avenger.
Access denied.
So let's get to the bottom of this mystery in this episode of Constant Review. So let's save a little time in the opening of this video and skip right to the good stuff. But before we actually list the top 3 strongest Avengers, I'm going to have to prerequisite that with 2 things. One, I'm only going to look at the original 6 Avengers, so we're only looking at Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Captain America, Hawkeye, and Black Widow. This is partially because as we start to include 20 to 30 characters, this becomes a much more difficult thing to figure out, and because as we get to the later Avengers movies, it becomes more debatable as to who is and who isn't an Avenger. For example, do the Guardians of the Galaxies count as Avengers? Or does Loki, because Thor kind of liked him at the end of Thor Ragnarok? I don't know. So we're only going to fixate on the 6 that we know for sure are Avengers. Secondly, we're going to have to define what it means to be the strongest Avenger. You can measure strength in a variety of ways. For example, we could just consider the strongest Avenger as who can punch who the hardest, to which the answer would easily be Hulk, who has the most brute strength of any Avenger. However, that's not really what we want to consider, or what most people consider as strongest when we compare things like that. Instead, for the purposes of our discussion, the question is going to be, if an Avenger fought another Avenger, who would win in a fight? That way, for an Avenger to gain the title of the strongest Avenger, it's not so important that they can beat every Avenger in a fight, but instead that they can beat more Avengers than any other Avenger. So, with those 2 characteristics, let's look at who is the strongest Avenger. We do have a lot of information to go off of for figuring out this question in the MCU. In both the movies, Marvel's The Avengers, Captain America Civil War, Age of Ultron, we do see Avengers go toe-to-toe against each other and exchange blows. We also see Thor and Hulk fight in Thor Ragnarok, and so we have enough information to really break down which of these could win in a fight. In 3rd place, I have the Incredible Hulk. We often see Hulk's brute strength. This creature goes hand to hand against Thanos. He fights down a Chitauri whale thing, and he fights Thor one-on-one in Thor Ragnarok. He can often be seen throwing Thor with a single punch. Throughout the entire MCU so far, we only see Hulk taken down twice in a fight. One, to the Hulkbuster armor that he himself helped build as Bruce Banner, and 2, against a one-on-one fight with Thanos, which, in his defense, not a single Avenger was able to take Thanos in a fight one-on-one. In fact, in Thor Ragnarok, we can see him going toe-to-toe against Thor and really holding his own. But unfortunately, if the Grandmaster hadn't intervened, it looked like Thor was going to win that fight. And that's why, in 2nd place, we have Thor, the God of Thunder. Thor is immensely powerful in the MCU. Just his appearance on the battlefield is so critical that he can completely change the tide of wars, which he does very often. He's seen as immensely powerful in Avengers 1 and Age of Ultron, but he really comes into his own after getting Stormbreaker in Infinity War. This takes his character to a whole another level where he can just come down and destroy armies. Don't forget that Stormbreaker as a weapon was so powerful that it went up against the full force of the Infinity Gauntlet with all 6 stones and still won, nearly resulting in Thanos' early demise. In fact, in what we can see in both Ragnarok and Avengers Endgame, Thor's real greatest enemy is himself, and his lack of self-confidence is usually his biggest flaw. Which leads us to number 1, the strongest Avenger, a character who doesn't lack self-confidence at all, Black Widow. Just kidding, guys. Black Widow is definitely not the strongest in the MCU, but she does manage to make it as the strongest character in the Avengers game, where playing her is just so much fun. Her heroic ability to make her and the characters around her go invisible is so overpowered, and you can just use it to chain infinite invisibility as well as infinite takedowns to be able to defeat enemies that are way more powerful than you. Definitely the most fun character in the game and really overpowered. Honestly, sometimes I get so into playing her character that every time I have to play a different character for a mission or something, I get really annoyed because I get so used to her being able to take down enemies so quickly that going to play even a character that I like more in the MCU is, kind of less satisfying. But back to the MCU, number 1 for the strongest Avenger is Iron Man. What, did you guys think I was going to say Captain America? Captain America is great and all. At the end of Endgame, he ends up picking up Mjolnir, which brings his character a whole nother power level. He has the ability to throw thunder at people. He has basically all Thor's power, with all of his powers, with all his years of battle experience, which makes him really powerful. Unfortunately, his 70 or so years of battle experience doesn't compete at all with Thor's 2,500 years of battle experience. And in addition, Mjolnir is not as powerful as a weapon as Stormbreaker, which makes him far worse than Thor in a one-on-one comparison.
No, give me that. You have the little one.
And since we've seen Hulk go against Thor back when he was wielding Mjolnir and going toe-to-toe with him, we could see that a Captain America wielding Mjolnir would be not even a good enough contender to take him in a fight. And to be fair, Captain America at the end of Endgame would have Mjolnir and a shield, and Hulk would only have one good arm. So he could probably take him and take that number 3 spot at the end of Endgame, but that still doesn't put him any close to where the number 1 spot is. And quick shout out to Hawkeye. I actually do like Hawkeye as a character, and I think he's a really fun member of the Avengers. But let's face it, the rest of them are gods, and he's just a guy with a bow and arrow.
And I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
So why is Iron Man the strongest Avenger? Well, let's go through Iron Man's accolades one by one into how he fought against pretty much every other hero in the MCU. Iron Man and Captain America can be seen fighting constantly throughout Captain America Civil War, at which we can see Tony able to take on Cap over and over again, and it takes the combined forces of Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes in order to finally take him down. And you can say that Captain America gets a lot more powerful in Endgame when he also gets Mjolnir to increase his strength, but so does Tony. In fact, in Infinity War, he develops his new armor that's built off nanotech and can instantly cover any part of his body, as well as generate any weapon that he has thought of. So, far more powerful than he was back when they fought each other in Civil War. He also goes toe-to-toe against Thor when he first encounters him in the Avengers, a match that can only be said ends with a draw, as neither combatant is allowed to finish the fight until Captain America steps in. Using the Hulkbuster armor, he's one of the only people to ever defeat the Hulk. And let's not forget his greatest accomplishment in the MCU. Tony Stark defeated Thanos.
Iron Man.
And some of you guys might say he didn't defeat Thanos. A lot of other Avengers did a lot better than him in a one-on-one fight with Thanos. And it was only because Tony used the nanoparticles in his gauntlets to steal the Infinity Stones from him that he was able to defeat Thanos in the confrontation. But to that I say, you're forgetting what Tony Stark's real superpower is.
Honestly, it's impossible.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
It's not in the fact that he has the Iron Man suits. That's not his superpower. Tony's superpower has been and always has been his intelligence. His ability to always come up with a plan and always be able to win despite not having the odds or the numbers.
You like that, Westworld? That's the thing about smart guys. We always cover our ass.
And that's why we love him 3000 as the #1 strongest event. So guys, what do you think? Am I right? Should someone else be up there? Am I being too mean to Hawkeye? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.